Thanks very much for inviting me. It's very good to be here. I'm talking to you about branding. I'm by no means an expert on branding, but we've spent some time developing the... Oh, that had to happen, didn't it? I knew that would happen. We spent some time developing this brand over here. That one, Authentic. And I'm going to explain to you what we've been through over the past year or so as we've been developing that brand. And also what that means, what we've learned about branding in general as we've gone along that journey. So, yeah, branding started with a red-hot iron, carving your initials into the hide of some poor beast. That's what branding was, that's where the name came from, and it was basically a symbol of ownership. So branding started off as ownership. It was putting your initials on the back of a beast. I chose this photo because I thought it quite amusing that the bull there should be labelled pie. It's a bit like labelling your sheep mint sauce or something, a sign of destiny, I think. Okay, and any resemblance is purely coincidental. So, we started off with brand being an identity or an ownership thing. What is a brand now? Does anyone have any words they can throw at me as to what a brand is now, what it represents? Recognizable, thank you. Any more words? Ownership, thank you. Anything else? Sam? Provenance, thank you, Sam. Okay, words that came to my mind are identity, values, position, all sorts of things. And there are different types of brand as well. Let's start off with the first. Does anybody know what's special about Bass? Okay. They registered the first ever trademark in the whole world. That red triangle there was the first trademark, and it was registered in 1700 and something. So what Bass did is they took their brand or their name and they converted it into an image. So that was the first step along the long path of branding, was to actually put an image against who you are. And they branded their company and they began to build up their sort of self-image around that. Then we get collective brands where people join together as a group or as a cooperative and form a collective brand and get behind that. For example, CBH there is an example of a collective brand. Then we had certification brands where it's a collective brand where multiple companies get behind it, but it also requires qualification. You also have to satisfy some criteria to join that brand. And in Australia, you have to register your qualification criteria with the ACCC, and all your suppliers must comply with that. So a certification brand has very special requirements. And our Australian Authentic brand is an example of a certification brand. Next, we have geographical indicators. And probably the most famous example is Champagne, where it's associated with a specific region in France. And you're not allowed to use that brand name unless you are in that region producing champagne by the Champagne method. Australia has a bit of a strange relationship with geographical indicators. The only industry that can use geographical indicators in Australia is the wine industry. It hasn't been approved. You can't register a trademark as a geographical indication unless you are a member of the wine industry in Australia. Worldwide, Europe is very pro-GI. Europe likes these regional associations and regional qualities. America hates it. So Australia is kind of torn between at the moment. And finally, what have we got? Oh, I wanted to put this one up because the philosophy of Waitrose is very close to the philosophy of Authentic. Waitrose has a slogan, reassuringly expensive. And that's a real challenge. And that's the challenge that we've risen to with our Authentic brand, to actually get out there with products that aren't necessarily in great abundance, but we want to pitch them at the premium end of the market and charge the appropriate price. On the other hand, we're not selling through supermarkets. The members of our brand are selling through a network of agents who are sort of on the ground. And we started in China, but I'm hoping that a lot of the lessons we've learned in China are also applicable in other Asian countries as well. All right. So we started out with a project that was sponsored by Hort Innovation, using levies from the olive industry. And the project was designed to enhance our competitiveness in China and other Asian countries, and also utilize the blossoming world of e-commerce and also social media as the channel for advertising and marketing. I'm not going to go through the whole list because I care. But basically, we did this for the olive industry, and what we discovered at the end of the project was it was actually a blueprint for more than just the olive industry. It's a blueprint for many whole food and food industries, and so we took it from there, basically. So thanks to Hort Innovation for that. That gave us a good platform. Oh, there we are, establishing premium pricing for Australian produce in overseas markets. So we decided to embark upon collecting a groups of people who wanted to export, who didn't necessarily have vast quantities or the low pricing that's traditionally required for export to the world of supermarkets. We were looking at a different end of things. We set out to carve out an identity for the brand, and we scratched our heads very carefully about what was the philosophy that was going to drive us. Now, for the identity, I would recommend anybody who's embarking upon any kind of branding to employ a professional designer to do your logo and your name and everything. It's much better, it looks much better, much more professional. On the other hand, your philosophy must come from within. You have to really think about what you're about and what you want to project. What we came to is the idea of customer entitlement that we kind of formulated over a period of time. And the belief here is that a customer, when he pays money for a product, he is entitled to certain things regarding that product. It's not just he pays the money, you give him the stuff. He has an entitlement, and there's a bond of trust has to exist between you and the customer. So I can't read this from here, but basically the fundamentals, like everything on the label, is true, that the food is safe to eat, there's nothing unknown in there, there's nothing with a maximum daily intake, which means it's toxic. You know, it's got to be what he expects. It's got to provide him or her with the nutrition they expect. And then there's a whole deal about provenance. We believe that customers are entitled to know when, where, how, and by whom the food was made. We think that the customer, when he pays that cash for his product, he has certain rights in respect of knowing about the provenance of the food. So we took that on board as well. And then legislation and good value. So that was our kind of philosophy behind the brand that we developed. Yeah, standards are all very well, but they're always a compromise. Standards are developed by groups of people who include everybody, exporters, government, producers, supermarkets, everybody's involved. So standards inevitably become a kind of compromise. The ultimate standard is the customer's requirement. That's the ultimate standard, and the customer's belief in what he's entitled to. So then we came to quite an interesting dichotomy. Is the brand about us trying to project what we're about, or is it about you, the customer, and understanding what you need and what's going to make you happy? So in a way, the whole branding thing was turning round. It was not looking at us so much as looking at the customer. I'm stuck. There we go. Oh, this goes back to the design. We came up with authentic because it's Australian, and we want to get across to customers, particularly in China, that what we're offering is an authentic experience in terms of the food, and is completely trustworthy. In fact, everything David said in your presentation was absolutely true and fundamental to what we're trying to do with this brand. So you get the designer will give you the typeface, the patterns, the colors, and everything you need. Then you have to protect your trademark in the countries where you want to use it. There's no global trademark organization that I know of. So for patents, you can get a worldwide patent, but you can't get a worldwide trademark. You've got to satisfy the requirements of every jurisdiction that you're going to sell the product into. In China, it's quite interesting because the trademark, every element of the trademark has to be trademarkable, which is different from Australia, where the trademark is treated as a combination. In China, they take apart every element. And furthermore, in China, you're not allowed to trademark a map, so that knocked out our silhouette of Australia. And you're not allowed to trademark colors, so that knocked out our green and our yellow. And you're not allowed to trademark words. So we ended up trademarking just the raw pattern that word made. And the Chinese equivalent is a clever phonetic interpretation of authentic. So that was trademarkable, we found. But it's different in every country. If you go to Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, wherever you go, you're going to come up with rules. And again, I would advocate the use of a professional organization to sort out your trademarks. It's too much brain damage trying to do it yourself. So, what drives brand loyalty in Asia? I believe, and I'm completely open to be challenged on this, it's all about communication and excellence. Communication is, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about social media these days, particularly in China, where social media just flourished and exploded because it's a bit subversive. You can actually get under the system with it. So it became huge in China. On our program, South Korea is second in terms of social media being part of everyday life. Taiwan and Japan are third and fourth. But of course, that's our program, but other countries, you know, India's coming on, and Indonesia, Thailand, Cambodia, etc. So communication is all about social media. Excellence. What we tried to do is take every step of the journey of the food product and add some excellence or imagination at each step. Really, we thought quite hard about it as well. And I will go through the list. How we added excellence at every step. First of all, find the best partners in terms of producers and service providers. So our program is open to any producer, provided they comply with the program requirements, but there's no pre-selection. But we are looking for producers who have passion and have a drive for excellence, not just satisfying requirements, but pushing, trying to be better, trying to really excel in what they're doing. And we've been lucky to find several producers, not just olive oil, but we're talking about honey, wine, and other products where they're really striving for excellence. Secondly, we have on-farm questionnaires and processes and codes of practice which assist the producers in their quest for superior quality. And also assess any threats to that as well. Thirdly, traceability is very important, as everybody knows, and that's embedded in the security seal that we have on our bottles. Looks like that. If the user scans the QR code there, he'll go through a security and traceability procedure, and then he'll get into what I call funky provenance, which is finding out interesting things about how the product was made. Like one of the things I want to do with Cobram is actually interview the drivers in the harvesters as they're harvesting the batch that's linked to that QR code. Each QR code on these labels is different, is unique, and fully traceable back. And in Cobram's case, back to the row of trees where those olives came from and the time of day that it was harvested. So if I can embed videos of interviews with the driver of the harvester, I think that will be really great fun. With honey, I'm running around trying to capture beekeepers and pinpointing the hives where the honey came from, but that's not as easy. Authenticity is an extension of this. It's basically when you scan that QR code there, it will give you an animation of the code in the silver stripe, ask you to verify that it's verify that animation, and then it will tell you it's authentic. You can get your magnifying glass out and go further down into that. There's actually 4 levels of certification there. Sorry, I keep pressing all the wrong buttons here. The story is an interesting one. Elsewhere on the bottle, we insist that the producers put a QR code telling their story in 1 minute. So there's the security code, but I don't know if you can see, but there's a QR code here, which where the producer has to actually tell their tale and make a connection with the customer. So the customer, through the bottle, can meet the producer and kind of understand a bit about him and get a sort of reality check that this is not just a bottle off a shelf. It's actually been produced with passion by real people whose livelihood depends upon the quality of that product. We're really trying to make a connection through the QR code. I've mentioned QR codes a lot. Does everyone understand what a QR code is? It's a way of life in Asia. People live by QR codes these days. I will attempt to demonstrate it later. Cold chain supply. We've got a special cover for the pallets that keeps them cool. Knowledge is our main marketing tool. Again, I'm sorry I keep talking about China, but that's the place I know best. But in China, there's a huge resistance to propaganda or hyperbole or advertising. They don't want, buy this, it's great. They want to understand why it's great and what the science is behind it. So knowledge is the main marketing tool. Number 8, sales through personal and peer networks. These are our agents. There's a whole breed now of micro shops. Each micro shop is run by a person who usually sells to her or his own network of friends on WeChat or whatever. Oops. So we're building up a network of agents who sell within their apartment blocks or their neighborhoods or their network of friends. And they're well provided with catalogs, resources, education. We'll have a convention once every year for them. They get commissioned, they get motivated, and they get issued with all the science that they need to sell the product. Not just talking about how it's made, but the nutritional value and how the body absorbs it and all that sort of stuff. We've partnered with a lab in Hangzhou who are helping us with our educational process. And then really deep sales support and customer engagement. Going back to our customers' entitlement and the power of social media to make personal connections with your customers. So now, at great risk to life and limb, I'm going to try and demonstrate a QR code. The picture there, we did a booth in Beijing recently, and we put a banner up with a couple of QR codes, I think you can see. Hang on. See if I can pinpoint them, just there. And people would come up and just scan them and walk away, or scan them and ask a few questions. But whatever happened, whatever was going on, whether they were tasting oil or whatever happened, they would just automatically scan the QR code. Old ladies, old men, kids, anybody, everybody knows how to scan a QR code in China. So that was quite instructive for us. Right, are you ready? We're going to use our old friend's Cobram again. Here's my scanner. Here you all are. This is live. This is not pre-recorded. I'm now going to try and scan a QR code. Hold your breath, please. Let's see if I can get it. Requires a steady hand. Got it. Open by Safari. Now in China, this is ultra fast. Because the internet in China is 16 times faster than it is anywhere else, provided you're accessing servers within China. Getting out of China is like continental drift, but within China it's lightning fast. So, hopefully. So this video is in this bottle.
I was doing farm management and I was doing agribusiness. We were chatting one day and thought we'd make a good team. Olives seemed to be something that we thought we could do well, but we didn't imagine we'd probably do this well. Every fruit, as soon as you pick it, starts to deteriorate. It's not just olives. And if you squeeze a fresh orange, you get nice, fresh, amazing tasting orange juice. And if you squeeze a fresh olive, you get amazing tasting extra virgin olive oil.
At Cobram Estate, one of the key differences is we have the ability to...
Oh, sorry. Anyway, so it goes on. Thank you. I did it. Well done, Chris. Thank you. I just got a couple more slides. Sorry, then I'll quickly finish off. Where was I? That's where I was. Oh, sorry. Other ways to connect, and this again reflects a lot of what David said. You've got to, to sell vegetables into the Asian market, you've got to cling on to customers' needs. And some examples are anything to do with babies is great, because mothers are very protective of their babies. If you can show that you are providing nutrition to babies, you've got a great social media following already. There was a great incident in Beijing when we had a conference there a few years ago, when a mother came up and said that she fed her baby an Australian avocado every day. Great things are happening around babies. Education is important. Packaging is important, is extremely important. And appealing to people who like to cook by the various cooking channels is also a way to go, especially in China. So the twist is that it used to be about us, but now it's about our customers. And so what I'm seeing with branding, and again, I'm not an expert, but what I'm seeing is the ultimate place to go is, can a brand be your personal friend? That's where it's going. Through the internet and social media, we can understand customers and their individual tastes and obsessions and priorities much, much better than was ever available to us before. This is why Facebook are doing their targeted marketing. And one parallel that I've got with this is medicine, where because doctors can now understand the genome and the chromosomes of the body and the gut bacteria and everything, they can now tailor the drug to the person. So the drug is no longer a one-size-fits-all. In the future, the drug will be tailored to the person. And that's what I think about branding. In the future, the branding will be more about the individual person and accessing his needs. That's my vision. And I think that's it.